Hello everybody and welcome to this edition of the Infinite Creativity Now show. And today I'm wearing this beautiful giraffe mug. How about that? Everywhere I go, I try to get a new mug, although I have this one at my place as well. So how are you doing, everyone? Welcome. If you're watching the replay, welcome. This is the place I talk about creativity and productivity for up to 1 hour, if you can imagine that. I show you the stuff that I've been creating. I show you stuff that you've been creating if you've shared it in the groups, and anything else that strikes me as interesting in terms of creativity. Just so you know what's going on, I've got 4 shows in 2 weeks. On the Tuesday, like now, it's the Infinite Creativity Now show, which has its own Facebook group, where I talk about anything to do with creativity, the topic of creativity itself, as well as specific things such as painting or sculpting or cooking. It doesn't really matter. On the Thursday, so the Thursday of this week, it's a little bit different. This is my Paris show. I talk about anything to do with Paris, so it's not exactly creativity. On the next Tuesday, I talk about photography. So I call it creative smartphone photography, but to be honest, it's any sort of photography is my thing. I chose smartphones because everyone has a smartphone. So I want you to realize that even if that's all you've got, you can be an amazing photographer with whatever camera you have. And then on the next Thursday, it's creative writing, where I talk about anything to do with writing, and in particular, areas in which I do actually write on a regular basis, such as writing blog posts, writing short stories, perhaps writing articles, writing poetry, even writing memes. All of those things are something that I can talk about. So Tuesday is photography, Thursday is writing, the next Tuesday is this creativity, and the next Thursday is about Paris. So welcome. Please say hello if you're watching in the replay live. Say hello, and I would love to hear how you're doing. Okay, can you hear me? There was a slight problem with the mic there. Just going to check the settings. Audio. Yep, seems to be okay. So I love it when people contribute. So I've got 4 groups in which you can contribute. Go for it. Today I called this show, if I go back to this one, I gave it a little title, and the title will be The Miracle of Compound Creativity. What on earth do I mean by that? Well, there's this well-known thing to do with investing money, and they call it the miracle of compound interest. And that's when you invest some money, you get your interest back. You don't spend the interest, you reinvest the interest. So you've got a bit more money, which is earning interest, and then you reinvest the interest on that. And what happens is it's like a snowball effect. And the classic thing is you can be a millionaire by the age of, I don't know, 40 or something, even if you invest $10. Yeah, I'm not sure what it is, but you see what I mean? There's a miracle of compound creativity. I invented it this morning, so I know it's true. And what is it? Well, and let me just come back here. So what is it? Well, I invented it, so I'm allowed to say that it is whatever it is. Something that I say again and again is, if you want to create, then create regularly and modestly. In other words, a little bit each day. And it's incredible what will happen. Because when you're in the creative act, you lose yourself, you lose the sense of time. That's almost the definition of creativity. You're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about the future, you're focusing on what you're doing now, which is already a wonderful thing. But what happens when you do that? Well, you don't notice the time going by. And if you make that a regular habit, if you do that every day or every week, but I recommend every day for people who are in my communities, because I want you to be amazingly creative. So I recommend every day. And what happens? You're not thinking about next week, you're not thinking about the future, you're not thinking about the big project that you're working on, you're just thinking on today. So you don't notice the time passing. And suddenly it's like you look up from what you were doing, you wake up from the sort of creative dream or the zone you were in, and you look back and you think, I wonder what I've done recently. And the result is incredible. And I'm going to give you 3 examples of that from my experience. I talk about my stuff because that's what I can talk about. That's all I've got. Of course, I can talk about your stuff if you share it with me, and other people's if I find something I want to share, which will happen throughout the year. That will happen. Right now, I want to show you 3 things that I've done recently, which have really surprised me. And here they are. Do say hello if you're watching in the chat. Say hi. I'd love to hear from you. And my question, as always, is what have you created recently? So the first thing I want to show you is something to do with painting. Now I just flip over to that. Now I had an idea. Now this isn't supposed to be political. It is about Ukraine, what's happening in the situation in Ukraine. It's not supposed to be political. It's supposed to be humanistic. People are suddenly dying who weren't dying before, and I think that's not very nice. So I felt something inside me that had to come out. It's easy to think that what we do or what we try to do is an absolute waste of time. It's like voting, you know, why should I vote? My little vote in a country of, let's say, 60 million, what difference can it make? And it's a bit like that with Ukraine. You know, if I wanted to help somehow, what could I do? Could I send 10 euros? Would that make a difference? Could I paint a picture? Could I write about it on my blog? Would that make a difference? That's the question. And the answer is, if you don't do anything, then you certainly won't make a difference. If you do something, then you might. Even if it's dealing with our own feelings about it, getting it out there, getting it, exteriorizing it, so it's no longer in us, the sort of pain that we're feeling, is probably worth doing. Now, I ask myself questions like, why would I do something for Ukraine if I don't do something for the famous, you know, starving kids in Africa, who we tell our kids to eat their food for, because otherwise the starving kids in Africa will starve even more? Or what is it, the Uyghurs or whoever is being persecuted in China, allegedly? What about them? Why don't I help them? Or why don't I help the homeless people in Paris a bit more? There's always these questions. In the end, I think it comes down to do what you feel, do what you do, because we can worry about all those people, but we probably don't do anything about it. So if you feel moved to do something about anything, then do that, because at least you're going to do something. So I felt moved at my scale, like I can only do certain things. I felt moved to express myself in my artistic way about the situation in Ukraine. And I sometimes take months to finish paintings. I'm quite well known for it, especially, well, in my circles. So I wanted a way to not take ages. So I set myself a challenge. You know that I like 3x3 grids. So I decided to split my painting process into 9 stages and to publish the grid from the word go. So what you're looking at here is the first step. Not actually the first step, because I cut the little pieces of board, I sand the edges. So it's the first step where they actually have something on them. There it is, first step. It looks absolutely awful, rubbish, nothing. So it's actually a real decision to actually publish it. But I thought, I'm someone who I really need a return on my investment of time and creative energy and emotion. I need to get something, even if it's just clicking. When I click and it's out there, that's given me the boost I need. And now I want to do the second one. So that's the first piece of the puzzle, of 9. I'll show you what I mean. Here's the second. And as you can see, I've started a grid now. So there's the grid. And it has the first one I just showed you, and the second one. And look at that big, almost empty grid. How does that make you feel? Well, I'll tell you how it makes me feel. It makes me feel like I want to fill the grid. And I also feel that now that I've shown that to you, I don't want you to not see it progressing. I want you to be part of this, just as I want to be part of your creations. So there's the second piece. You see, I've added some things. I've added some blue jeans, old ripped jeans, which were my jeans. So I am in this painting. I've also added some coins. Some of these coins I've found on the streets of Paris. Some of them sometimes are from my old home, Britain. Sometimes I put pennies in. There's bits of nature. If I just show you the first one again, the very first stage, there's a little bit of nature, the bit of nature, and there are some. These things aren't even stuck. I didn't realize they weren't even stuck, these round things. Some of those washer things are found in the streets of Paris. These ones probably aren't. And the coins. Some people really like to see the process, so that's what I'm doing here. Now I've blue, right? I chopped up some ripped jeans in blue. Think of ripped clothes, okay? Because that you're going to see how that gets into the equation later. So there's ripped clothes. There's also a piece of wood. It looks, this wood here, can you see that? It looks like a splinter of wood, and it came from the old railway that used to go around Paris called 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, which means the little belt, because it belted Paris. It doesn't work anymore. It hasn't worked for ages, but the lines are still there and the sleepers are still there. This came from the sleepers. I took it and I put it in my paintings. So anyone who has my paintings will have a little sliver of Paris, a real piece of Paris. But think of it, I started to think of it in terms of the project, the Ukraine project, and it made me think of houses which had been destroyed by bombs. I didn't say it was a happy subject, but I don't do happy subjects very often. Same as poetry. I really don't often write about how beautiful the sun is rising, although that can happen. In fact, I was unhappy over the last few years that I hadn't been very unhappy, because I wasn't producing much poetry at all. Now I've found a way to be quite happy and still produce poetry. So there you go. And I'm in a healthier place as well. So there's, imagine a split pieces of houses and also ripped clothes. You see where I'm going with this? Then the next one is this. So I've put the first layer of paint. Yeah, it's white. So we had blue jeans and now we've got white paint. Isn't it funny to go from the rawness with no color and then suddenly it's all become white? It's like a coating of snow has fallen over the painting. Very rough snow, stuff's showing through. That's the first layer. And there is the grid. So now I've done the first row. That in itself is a little victory. I really need steps and stages to see. So now the first row is complete. I feel that's a milestone. What about you? Say hello, as ever, if you're watching the replay or you're watching live. Say hello. How do you manage to go from the beginning of a project to the end when it's quite long? How do you motivate yourself? Do you have a routine? Do you say, I'm going to create every Sunday afternoon or every day? How do you do it? I'd love to know. So this was a milestone for me, getting to the end of that row. And yeah, there's the white one. Then I did the next one. The next milestone I wanted to get to was the middle one, not the end of the second row, the middle one. I wanted that to be really cool. So I painted over the white in yellow. There's two reasons for that. One is that I wanted to have white in the painting somewhere symbolically. I don't know if you can guess yet, but the jeans were blue, then there was a layer of white. You don't see the white, but then the other reason was technically the yellow on the brown wouldn't look very good, but when the yellow is on the white, it looks much brighter. And you can see that everything is starting to get quite uniform. You've really lost any of the other colors of the washers, of the coins almost. So this is interesting. It's really funny when you look at a painting and you think, you don't realize there are so many layers underneath. So we had the brown of the board and all the colors of the items, then we had white, now we have yellow, and here it is in the grid, which motivates me. What's your motivational thing? Then this was the next milestone, the middle one. I wanted this to be a pretty hard-hitting one in the middle. As it happened, after the blue jeans, the white, the yellow, the next one became bright red. Some people, they say to me, I liked it the way it was before. I liked it when it was white. And then they see the yellow, but I liked it when it was yellow. Well, if you like it now that it's red, it's not going to stay red. But you see, I haven't painted it completely. You can see the yellow showing through the red. That's important. It's not only turned the red an even richer color of red, slightly orangey, but it also has yellow showing through the gaps. Because if you painted it completely, why bother having something underneath at all? So because there's so much texture, you can't cover it all with the red easily, and I don't want to. So that's actually really looking quite, yeah, it's quite nice to look at, but it's absolutely not finished at all. Another fun thing about this is that people have no idea what you're planning on doing, which is why sometimes people say to me, but I liked it before, I thought that was finished. And for me, it's not finished at all, and you're not even going to see the thing they would like me to have stopped at, which is kind of funny. But that's part of the game. And there it is in the middle. Bam! That was a great milestone for me, getting number 5 done. That means I'm more than halfway there. I've got the centerpiece. Now I've just got to fill in the edges. Next, piece number 6. By the way, for each of these, I gave a little commentary. So step 1, I invented a word called founged. It means found and scrounged. So I've got coins and washers and stuff from here, there, and everywhere. Could be from the streets of Paris. I could be with someone and they've got something and I say, could I use that for my painting? Whatever happens. So coins, washers, widgets, and a little nature. And then the infinity symbol is actually in the washers. I made the washers into the infinity symbol. Ripped blue jeans, seed pods, symbolizing life, and so on. So I described the different steps. So what's next after the red? Can you guess? Aha. So this is the next one. And after the red is blue, 2 stripes of blue. And you can see a little hint of what's coming next at the bottom as well. There's a dash of yellow there. So maybe you can imagine what's happening. And the next one, there it is in the grid. And that's the end of line 2. So that's another motivator for me. And the next one is the beginning of the last line. So important to see these steps. And I've got a message saying that I've got a live video starting in 3 minutes. I think I'm on it. I don't know what's going on there. And now you can see what the whole thing is about. It's the Ukrainian flag times 81. All of these little squares are destined for the streets of Paris. I'm going to go around the streets, stick them up, and they're tiny. They're only this big, but that's me doing my things on my scale. Sometimes the tiniest things are sometimes the most powerful. I don't have any pretensions to cover huge walls in Paris with my stuff, but tiny little squares, that suits me. It's like a little mouse. It's like the little mouse or piglet in Winnie the Pooh, who can get into the spaces which the big, brave, gruff, intelligent, clever animals can't. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm going to have my little squares everywhere, and they'll be next to really impressive, amazing street art, and there'll be my little square. But there's going to be lots of them. And there it is. And then this is where people were thinking, oh, okay, some sort of Ukrainian flag. It doesn't seem very conventional, because it's not blue and yellow. But the thing is, with my paintings, everything has to join up. So this yellow here joins up with the next yellow. Then there's a blue, then that yellow joins up with the next yellow. So I did it that way for a reason. Finally, not finally, This is the second last step, penultimate step. Suddenly there's a yellow circle in the middle with a brown line around it. Now what you didn't see is all the steps that went into that circle. First there was some white, there was some yellow or red, I can't remember, and then a lot of different steps just for that circle. It's crazy. And can you guess what's going to come on that circle? Can you imagine how I feel when I'm at this stage? I'm motivated, I'm excited about finishing the grid. Some people who have been following this are interested to see what's going to go in that last thing. And this last step really changes everything. And it looks like this. So there it is. I put little faces on. I don't try to paint realistic things. It's not my thing. But I like the little smileys. There's so much expression in them, and they're made to help us express ourselves. So for someone who doesn't draw realistically, doesn't really want to, I use things that everyone is familiar with, especially for the streets of Paris. People will be walking along. You know, we're automatically attracted to the human face, especially the eyes. There can be anything in a view, in a scene, and we'll see a face. We even see faces when there aren't faces. You look at, I don't know, a tree, and you see faces in the bark. You look at the clouds and you see faces in the sky. We are programmed to see faces because they could be friendly, they could be dangerous. So that's why I've chosen some of the most familiar facial expressions we know today, and that's smileys, which are not always smiley. And in fact here, none of them are smiley because they're very unhappy, because they're on a Ukrainian flag background and there's a lot of shit happening in the Ukraine at the moment. So this is purposely supposed to be strong. It's not happy stuff, not at all. Is it optimistic at all? I think the colors of the Ukrainian flag themselves are optimistic. Now, if you notice in the painting, if you look at this, I started off with the colors blue of the jeans, had the yellow, sure, but then red and blue. And so hang on, white, yeah, so blue, white and red are the colors of the Russian flag. Now this isn't political, but still, you know, a country which calls itself a country and uses a certain flag is doing something with another country which has its flag. So I wanted those colors to be in there, the Russian colors, white, blue and red, and the Ukrainian colors, yellow and blue. And isn't it funny? They both have blue, you know, they have this in common, and yet the situation that's going on would suggest that they don't have anything in common. So it's like my paintings, the metaphor I use with my paintings. This way up, they're all different. You see these little faces, they're all different. You turn the squares over, they're all exactly the same. We're all the same underneath. So I finished this off with the face. The face has a little blue smiley type tear. The corners have some symbols. The red S is the S from my name, Sab. I know it looks a little bit like the SS, you know, of the, what is it, the Gestapo or something? It's not, it's S for Sab, part of my signature. In the top right is the Eiffel Tower. In the bottom left is infinity squared, which is always on my paintings. And because the little squares are individual, they are not going to be with the other squares. They're going to be on their own. I wanted to put those on each one. And in the top left, this is the sort of real political comment, I guess. It's the hammer and sickle of the old Soviet or communist regime. There it is, in your face. And the smiley face has got a gash on it with blood dripping down, and the whole thing is spattered with red. And that is my painting. That's it, it's finished. I'm going to varnish it, paint the edges in black, go into the streets of Paris and put it on the walls. So the whole point of this, that fits in with the theme of the miracle of compound creativity, is that little by little, it's not exactly the same, but the point is do a little bit each day and you will have already finishing a thing. Some people don't finish their things. So they put in effort, they do half of it or 2/3 or 9/10, and they give up because they just give up, they can't be bothered, they lose interest, or they get worried that the result, the final result, won't be as good as they thought it would be. Because once they've finished, normally they have to show it to people. That's what you do, you know, it's finished. Can we see it now? So there's a fear some people have that it won't get the reactions they would like, which is another reason why people get stuck right at the end. Finishing is sometimes the hardest thing, as is starting. So in fact, to force yourself to finish, that's almost like a bonus, because many people, they don't finish. So to finish the thing, a finished thing is far more valuable than the little things unfinished. Can you imagine 8 or even 9 little things unfinished and one thing finished? Of course, the finished thing is much more interesting than something unfinished. So this is a way I found to encourage myself to finish something which often takes me weeks and weeks. This took me about 2 weeks, and there's 9 steps. So, you know, just over a day per step. That's amazing for me. What about you? What can you do with your project? How can you split it up? How can you symbolically create something such as my 9 squared grid that will push you to do what you say you want to do, which is complete a piece. And as soon as you've completed a piece, go on to the next one. The next day after completing something, I like this, I read it somewhere. What is the first thing you should do? What should you do the day after completing something, like a big piece? And the answer I like is do the same as you did yesterday. It just happens to be the first step of a new thing rather than the last step of an old thing. So have this habit of creating every day. Keep creating. It's just normal. Make it as normal as brushing your teeth. And you will discover the miracle of compound creativity, because you will get more and more stuff out. Last month, I got a big painting out with loads and loads of steps. I got it out, and it didn't take me that long, because I forgot the big picture. If you'll excuse the pun, I forgot the big picture, and I did the little steps. I did the next layer. I did the next bit of detail, and a big picture got out there. So this is something I'm incorporating into my my working process. I'm not saying I'm going to share every single step of every painting. That could get very boring, but it's a pretty good way to get things done fast. Again, if you've just joined, say hello. And what is the thing? What have you created recently? So if you've just started watching, you're watching the replay, this is the question I'm going to ask you. What have you created recently? And please share it. Share it in the comments, share it with a picture. You might not be able to do that now during the live, but afterwards you can. Share it in the group. Share it in the Infinite Creativity Now group. I'd love to see it. I've got another example, but let me just show you something first from the Creative Blog and Article Writing group. I've got something from Karen. I just wanted to show you. The weekly theme was War and Peace. I'm going to change it very soon. And this is not quite true. I need to update that. But it's every 2 weeks. Each show is every 2 weeks for the different topics. So Karen actually contributed something, which is one of her rambles. She calls it Rambling On. I haven't read this. I'm going to read this with you. Feel free to make a comment. So it's spontaneous reaction from me. Now, Karen from Canada, she tells me something a bit disturbing, actually. She tells me that she hasn't got any copy of the words she puts on this blog. That disturbs me slightly, because what if something happens with the blog? So whatever you do, folks, have copies. Have a copy on your computer, a copy on the internet, a copy on some sort of cloud storage device, a copy on a floppy disk. No, I'm kidding. What do you call it? Flash drive, USB key. Have more than one copy. It's your stuff. It's your work, for whatever you. So anyway, so I'm going to read this with you. I hope she doesn't say anything rude. I surrender. I am a bookaholic. I have admitted that before. I'm going to make this bigger so we can see it a little bit more. I'm a bookaholic. I have admitted that before. I love to read and have always preferred physical books over digital ones. At least that was how I felt up until this past week. There was a little Kindle on sale on Amazon before Christmas. It was calling to me and I was so tempted. I had enough gift cards from the surveys I do to cover the cost, but I talked myself out of it. I prefer real books, as I said, and I can read Kindle books on my tablet anyway. The problem is the tablet is not as comfortable to hold as a real book. I'd love your thoughts on this. Do you prefer real books that you can go like this with and touch and fold and stuff in your bag, or do you prefer? Are you a Kindleite or an e-bookaholic? A bigger problem is that my tablet is already overly full, and though I dump the cache and clean it several times a day, it still malfunctions often. Downloading another book would only add to the problem. Okay. This isn't very long, by the way. It was only after that amazing sale price was gone that I regretted not taking advantage of it. So, last week, when I saw the sale reappear, I jumped on it. This cute little Kindle arrived at my door a few days later. I wondered at first, let me get rid of my banner there. I wondered at first if I would be able to read such a tiny screen. My tablet is a 10-inch version and actually bigger than some books. A friend suddenly sent me a link to a free ebook she thought I would enjoy. I figured it would be a good way to test out this new gadget. That's the end of the article there. The text was clear and easy to read with none of the glare a tablet screen produces. Yeah, there's some things that are amazingly book-like, even though it's a tablet. And there's things for writing on which actually feels like paper. Have you seen that? This Kindle has a matte screen that doesn't reflect light from my surroundings, and it's not backlit either. It's like reading a regular book page and very easy on the eyes. The Kindle weighs nothing and is easy to hold, even in bed. So that's what you get up to in bed late at night, is it, Karen? It is small enough I can easily tuck it in my purse and take it anywhere. Is she getting commission for these things? I used it while waiting in the car twice already this week. I have already finished reading that first book and written the review. Now I have another one lined up and ready to go. I caught myself saying, I love this thing more than once this week. I still have a lot of physical paper books to read. I also realized that they are filling up my house just as apps and files are filling up my tablet. Buying the Kindle was a good decision after all, and I no longer hate ebooks. The end. That's a great example of a nice, friendly, personalized blog post. And as the group that she contributed that in is called Creative Blog and Article Writing, it's the perfect thing, isn't it? And I love the title, Rambling On, as well. Places I go or things I think, either way, I'll be rambling on. Do you have a blog, people? I've got a comment. I bet it's Karen commenting on my comments on her thing. Do you have a blog? Do you write regularly? If not, why not? Now, everyone has their way of creating, their way of expressing themselves. But, you know, let's face it, writing is an amazing way of getting your thoughts out there in a form in which you can come back to them later. Because if you paint and stuff, that's great, but you don't come back to the painting really and you know, go over it and process your thoughts and stuff. Writing, for example, a journal is amazing for that. I get my thoughts out every single day in my Paris Photo Chronicles. Got a comment from Dorothy. Hello, Dorothy. Real books or YouTube? So I think, Dorothy, you're saying this is your preference. You prefer real books or YouTube? This is kind of strange for me because there are two sides to it for me. Music. I used to love buying CDs, and before that I used to love buying albums. I spent hours, days, probably weeks and weeks of my life as a kid going through the record things, you know, in the local record shop, like this, going home with a couple, my prize of the day. And then CDs, I bought tons of CDs. Then when I came to France, I discovered a second-hand CD shop. Normally I wanted new. I lowered my standards. I said, you can get more music for the same price if you buy second-hand. It's about half price. Great, I've got a nice big CD collection. Then came that fateful day when you could start to get more and more music online. And after all, music, it's an oral thing. You know, it's not something you look at, it's something you listen to. Fundamentally, it's something you listen to. So I realized that listening to it was enough. I didn't have to buy the item as a thing, even though I loved the album covers. When I was a kid, I would get home. If it was a gatefold sleeve, does that mean anything to anyone? A gatefold sleeve, you open it up and you've got maybe the words inside. You take the inner sleeve out and it's got a picture on. This was like a dream come true. It was a thing to treasure. It was an item of beauty, an artistic thing, you know. Like I remember The Wall, for example, by Pink Floyd. Took it home. No, I got it as a present, actually. Each inside sleeve was decorated with The Wall and all the lyrics. Oh, what a joy. It was a shame when the CDs came in terms of the packaging, because obviously it was much smaller. But you still had some beautiful booklets, loads of pictures, the words. Unfortunately, today, this is gone. This is part of my life, which has disappeared. And I must admit, since I came to France, I haven't played an album, you know, a vinyl plastic album, taken it out, put it on the turntable, moved the needle over, had to turn the album over to hear the other songs. It's not part of my life. It hasn't been for 30 years, which is weird. And yet I was okay with it because I realized I could have as much music as I want. Now I use Spotify. Other streaming services are available. I use Spotify. And I've realized I can even talk to my phone. The other day I said something like, I don't know, play Voodoo Child on Spotify. 3 seconds later, I'm listening to Jimi Hendrix. It's just unbelievable. And what I'm not so keen on, I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but it's called Ramble On. What I'm not so keen on in principle is the fact that so many songs are now attached to the video. You wonder sometimes if they would stand alone without the video, because they didn't used to have videos. It used to be just the music. Now they've all got videos, and I love the videos, but I sometimes ask myself, what would music be like if we didn't have any visuals? Is it as strong today as it was then? Anyway, the point is, I've stopped buying music, albums, and things you can hold. And that's it. Books, absolutely the opposite. I have hardly ever bought books to read on my computer or my phone. I love Amazon. I go there, I can buy 10 books in a row because they give you all these suggestions, the snide, sneaky suggestions. Yeah, I'm going to buy one book, I end up buying 7. And I want the book. I want the paper in my hands. Sometimes I don't read the books. I've got a lot of books I haven't read, but I want the book. I want the book. And it's stupid because I mean, I'm only going to read the book once probably, and often a lot of my books I don't even read. Whereas music, I would listen to it a lot. So that could be an argument for buying the CD and giving some money to the artists. And yet books, I only want the book. And yet I only read it maximum of 1 time. Very strange. I'm just not into ebooks. Doesn't interest me. I want to get away from electronic reading for a while. I do that all day, you know, on Facebook and stuff. When I want to sit down with a book, all the electronic devices off, almost, and just read the damn book. You know, read it on the train. Get a book out. Be, you know, what was that Apple advert? Think different. Read different. Read a book. Remember those, boys and girls? So what are you saying, Karen? You're saying that you've come to terms with electronic books. Well, good for you. Words are words, aren't they? All right, so that was that. I'm going to quickly give you two more examples of the miracle of compound creativity. Basically things that I have finished, which I wouldn't normally have finished so quickly, and how happy I feel about the result. So I did my painting. Another one is my classic example of my Paris photo chronicles. 4 years ago and 2 months, I didn't have I didn't have 1,521 of these photographs of Paris, and I didn't have 1,521 poems or texts, and now I do. Now that's 1,500 photographs. Every single photograph is as good as I could make it, and every single one of those 1,521 texts or poems is as good as I could make it. And the only reason that body of work exists is because I decided that I was going to be someone who creates every day. This is what I'm going to do every day. I'm going to do a photograph and some writing. Takes me maybe takes an hour. Every time I go into Paris, I've always got in mind that I need to get some photographs. It's what I want to do. It's not what I force myself to do. I have to force myself not to. In fact, it's got to that point. There's a tipping point. You're in my groups, you're listening to this because you are a creative person and you want to be as creative as you can. So that's what I'm telling you. I'm not preaching, saying everyone should do this, but if you're listening to this, I imagine you feel somewhat similar. You want to create as much as you can. Well, get to the point, get to the tipping point where it's more painful not to do your daily creative act than it is to do it. And to do that, you have to find the thing that's true for. And if you've got something you're forcing yourself to do every day, and then you're thinking, oh God, no, that might not be it. Or try to force it, do it, you'll feel great, and then maybe it'll become easier and easier. So the point is, if you do it regularly and you find something that it's really what you want to do, and you have regular steps, you have regular milestones. For example, my milestones for this, I have one, it's not really a milestone, but every day I want to publish one photograph and one text. So it's not a milestone. A milestone is a group of things that you finish. But it's still a mini win. Every single time I publish, I've done what I said I would each day. So it's a small win. It's a daily win. And that's what our life is made up of days. So isn't it great to think that each day of your life, you've done something great? My milestone, the smallest milestone after publishing each day, is to publish this, is to have finished a chapter. And I call a chapter 9 of these. That's 9 days. So every time I finish one of these, that's a very small milestone. 9 days of work, 9 photographs, 9 texts. So I recommend that you do something similar. Have mini milestones. Could be a week, creating every day for a week. Or depending on what your creative activity is. If you knit pullovers, it could be obviously a pullover or socks, maybe you knit socks for refugees. The sock is your milestone, or maybe a sock is halfway there, and then the pair of socks is a major milestone. If you're making recipes, a book of recipes, maybe obviously a recipe would be a milestone. Maybe a step of the recipe is a daily thing, and then the recipe itself would be the milestone. Or maybe a chapter of recipes. What is your thing? Because we need to feel that we're making progress every day. Otherwise, we're always living for the goal, the big goal, like the end of the book. Finish your book. But if you're not having little wins each day, it can be frustrating. And then when you get to the end and you finish the book, it can be a big sort of letdown. You feel kind of lost. What do I do now? And often you don't get as much return, much positive feedback as you expected. and you're a bit disappointed. Whereas if you forget that completely and you consider, I'm someone who does this creative act every day, and I don't care if today is the end of a book or the beginning of the next one. It doesn't matter. What will be will be. When I let my writing go, or my recipes go, or my photos go, when I let them go, they can live their own life. Some people will like them, some people will dislike them, some people won't care, one way or the other. That's fine. That's fine. Your stuff, if you want some sort of feedback, it's for the ones who like it. The ones who don't, who cares? Doesn't matter. So this is, for me, this is an incredible effect of compound creativity. Doing a little bit every day. I cannot not do this now. Okay, I can miss a day, but I'll catch it up. I cannot get behind. I cannot not do it. It's quite scary to say that. It took me 50 years to find something like that. I've done projects before, but there's something about this. It's not an effort for me. So I strongly encourage you to find something that is like that for you. And if you think I couldn't do that, I haven't got enough time, make it smaller. Take your task and make a smaller task. You know, if you want to take 5 photos a day, make it 1 photo a day, like me. 1 photo a day. If you can't imagine writing a page a day, write a paragraph a day. If you can't imagine writing a paragraph a day, write a line. Why not? And the funny thing that happens, of course, when you start, you can't stop. That's what creativity is like, especially when it's your passion. So when you get going, that's the main thing. Get going, and you'll find that you forget almost immediately that it was difficult to get going. And the danger will be you can't stop. Danger. It's a nice danger, but that might mean that you can't stop and you keep doing loads of other things. All right. So that was my second thing. My third thing will be, I can't remember. Yes, this. My third thing is this. And it's a word thing. Now, about 2 weeks ago, I had an idea. I think I mentioned this in another live, and maybe on the writing one. That's fine, because this is about all sorts of creativity, and I'm talking about the creative process. I have added a new daily activity to my life. This may or may not be a good idea, but I didn't have a choice. It decided that's what was going to be done. And there was this game called Wordle. You might know it. Some of you are fans of it, I think. And there's a word. You have to find a word. You've got a few goes, and by the end of the 6 goes, hopefully you've found the word, because you get clues. You know, this letter's right in the right place, this letter's in the wrong place, and such like. So I thought, that's really cool, and it went viral and got sold for millions of dollars. And I thought, that's interesting. I wasn't attracted so much by the millions of dollars, but by the fact that this thing went viral, that this guy, probably in his bedroom at home, thought of this little game, very simple game. It already exists. There's a TV show in France. It's exactly the same game, as all my French clients and friends told me. And yet the guy did it. So I thought, I'm going to do something. Not the same, because why would I do something the same? But something that shares the good points, but has my personal touch. Now, this Wordle game, it's what it is. It's great. You know, it's, if you're into words, you like the same game every day. It's always the same. Nothing ever changes. It's just, you know, you do the same game. So I thought I would do something else. And it has the same number of steps. So the 6 steps, but I made it more colorful. Look, it's got the colors of the rainbow. I called it Fundle, not Wordle. Wordle, it's based on words. It's a cute name for a word game. I like the word fun, so I used Fundle. It's the daily Fundle. Fundle.com wasn't available. It was taken by investment funds or something. Daily Fundle, simple as that. You know, be a bit creative. Don't be too stuck in your ideas. Daily Fundle. Not only was dailyfundle.com available, which is cool, Daily Fundle tells you that it's daily. I think we all agree on that. So there it is. I was inspired. The idea of daily at first I was thinking, okay, fundle now or something, but people don't know what fundle is, and if you add now, they probably still don't know what it is. So then I thought, what about daily fundle? Because there's a few websites with daily, and there's one called Daily Stoic, which is like stuff about Stoicism daily. So I thought, cool, daily fundle, and here it is. So I did it in about 2 days. Then I decided I would get the website, got the website, and transferred over what I'd done on my other site, funenglish.lessons.com, to the new site, with the principle that one idea, one site. And so people arrive on the homepage, dailyfundle.com. That's dailyfundle.com, and you're ready to play every day. And a new one comes out at fun o'clock on the dot, fun o'clock on the dot. So watch out for it every day, which may or may not be vaguely around midday French time. And I'm really, pleased about this. 2 weeks ago, I promise you, this did not exist even as an idea. This is an example of my what do they call it, monkey mind or something? You can't focus on one thing. It's kind of my my curse and my benediction. I love being like that, but sometimes it means I never get anything finished. So as you can see, based on today's show, I am doing my best to find ways of finishing stuff myself and getting you to finish stuff as well, which includes starting. I thought, okay, this will add something to my life that I maybe don't need. Then I thought, but I'm excited about it. Why shouldn't I do it? I love words. And the thing about this is there's still a lot of me in it. That's important for me. And I think it needs to be important for you too. You need to be in there. Don't do something where this guy who did the Wordle, he's not in there. We don't know who he is. I'm not saying I'm looking for fame. I just want to be personally, I'm putting myself into it, like everything I do. In my photo, I'm in there. In my words, I'm in them. In this game, I'm in them. I'm not, my photo isn't all over the place or anything, but it's okay. Here's the thing that interests me. I have to stay interested in this day after day. How would I stay interested in something like Wordle? That's why the guy sold it. He had no personal interest in keeping it. Why would he? I cannot imagine selling this, because each day I have fun creating the fundle. Why is it fun? It's fun because there are 6 clues. Each clue, in those 6 clues, this is for everybody in the world. Linguistic experts, people who want a fun game whilst they're on the train or waiting for the bus. It's for English students, it's for kids, it's for adults, it's for anybody. So how can I make it interesting for everyone? Well, there are 6 clues. In crosswords, there's only 1 clue, and you're supposed to find the word. So that's 6 ways I can help people find this word. Except I want there to be a progression. So what I've done is, some clues are more cryptic, some are extremely easy, some are extremely vague, and some are extremely informative. I start off the first clue, it's very general. It has to be. Otherwise, I don't want people getting it after the first clue, and it's not a crossword, it's a different thing. It's a thing with 6 clues. The clues build on each other. The first one, it's quite vague, so it's quite tall, for example. Could be a building, could be a giraffe, it could be anything that's tall. I've had some comments saying it's too vague, I haven't got a clue. That's the point. Think with Wordle. The first word you put in, all you can do is put 1 5-letter word from the millions of 5-letter words that exist. So that's nothing. You're not going to get it. It would be pretty miraculous if you got it after 1 on your first guess. Well, it's the same principle here. You're not supposed to get it on the first go, but this can still stimulate your imagination to think of things that are tall. It tests the vocabulary of English learners, and it tests the imagination of non-English learners. And it's fun. And you're probably not going to get it right, but there's 5 more clues. Having said that, there is a chance you get it right. For example, I asked someone to do their own fundle for me, to make one and test me. They said on the first clue that I said, give me the first clue. They said, it's really big. And I said, elephant. And they said, but how did you know that? And it was an elephant. So it's possible. It's possible. Someone said, it's quite tall. Someone said, a giraffe. It wasn't, but it could have been, couldn't it? A building could be a building. It's not, but it could be. And then the clues build on each other. So my objective is that everyone, no, not everyone, most people can win by clue 6. You can get the answer. Not everyone, of course not. Because it's based on so many things. It's based on your upbringing. It's based on your vocabulary, your interest in words, the words you've been exposed to in life. Your first language might not be English. This Wordle, oh my God, this Fundle, number 10, not everybody knows this, especially non-English speakers, non-native speakers. So some of these will be trickier. That doesn't mean they can't look them up on the internet. They can, of course they can, because they're not going to find the answer by looking on the internet. But if they've got the word in their own language, they could translate it into English and try that. It can be a word which is one thing, but it has 2 parts to it. Okay, so like I don't know, ice cream, for example. Ice cream, 2 words. Or there could be a hyphen. If some cases there's a hyphen, like ice cream, sometimes it's hyphenated, sometimes it's 2 separate words. I don't think it's ever one word yet. I will put the 2 possibilities as possible. So this is how I am going to keep my interest. It's a game for me each day to think of 6 clues that build on each other. By the end, the last clue is normally really, really quite easy to guess, or it will confirm your suspicions from the last guesses. The first one is completely vague, but it's still a category of tall things, for example, or big things, or soft things. And thrown in there might be jokey clues, there might be cryptic clues, there might be obscure clues for the people who love the obscure ones. And that's it. That's my game. I'm going to have fun with it, and I hope you do too. So there it is, dailyfundle.com. That's dailyfundle.com. Every day comes out a new one at fun o'clock on the dot. And if you go to the Fundle archives, there's some information here, by the way, how to play, and about Fundle, and contribute. Check those out if you're interested. And if you want to go to the Fundle archives, you've got them all. So I don't know about you guys. I'm looking for ways of maybe getting language learners to use this, maybe in schools for kids. So all of the archives are here. A chapter is 6, not 9. I decided to go for 6 because of the colors of the rainbow, or the most basic forms of them. So in each chapter of 6 Fundles, there are 6 Fundles. And if you click on the button or the frog, maybe I should make the frog jump out as well. You click on there, you go to another page with that Fundle. So nothing complicated, nothing fancy, no adverts yet. But if you do work for a company that would like to pay me lots of money to put your advert, just on this page, get in touch. But I'm not selling it. And yeah, there you go. It's round. First clue. It's round. Shall I try another one just for fun? Fundle 3. Yeah, just to whet your appetite, get you tempted. So the first clue of this one is, it's scary. Could be lots of things, couldn't it? All right. And if you want all of the questions, every time I complete a new chapter, I'll put all the Fundles, all the questions, and all the answers. So you click here. Don't look if you don't want to know them. You see all the questions. And if you click here, I'm not going to, you've got the answer. So that's my Fundle archives. That's my latest creative project. Very quickly, this has become part of my life. I do the daily Fundle each day, create the new pages, and get on with my life. It's ridiculous, like I don't have enough stuff already. That's me. If this means something else falls off, which I really wasn't doing much, well, that's the way it has to be. So thank you for watching today. I hope that's given you 3 ideas, 3 examples of how to. This is another daily thing, you see. A week ago, this didn't exist, or 10 days ago, it didn't exist. Bam, I have my first chapter. Where did that come from? Came from my excitement of being in the creative spirit of creating the website, the structure of it, all the graphics, and promoting it. Suddenly, oh, I'm on chapter 2 already. I am, look. There's Fundle 1, Fundle Archives, chapter 2. It's already a thing. Except you don't have the answers, because until this is finished, until chapter 2 is finished, I'll just let you have the Fundle. I won't let you see the questions and the answers. But very, very soon, that'll be, you know, time flies. What did I write about in today's Paris Photo Chronicles? I made a reference to a song by the Steve Miller Band called Fly Like an Eagle, I think. And the refrain to that is, well, let me just show you before I go. Fly like an eagle. It's about time slipping. Do you know the song? I'm not a fan of Steve Miller, never have been. I was actually doing an article on Jimi Hendrix because for some reason I was talking about that earlier, wasn't I? So there's the picture. There's the text. This is from a Paris window in the Marais. And I said Steve Miller's vinyls on the turntable, but I was never a fan. Although Fly Like an Eagle, reminding me that time keeps on slipping into the future, ain't wrong, unfortunately. Time slips into the future. And what have we got to show for it? Well, the great thing is that when we're creative, we've got a lot to show for it. If that's what we want, then that's great. If that's what you want, you're in the right place, because that's all I do. All day, every day. Creating stuff, helping others to be creative too. So thanks for watching. There'll be another of these shows in 2 weeks. And next on Thursday, it's my Paris show. So if you want to hear me rambling for an hour about Paris in all its weird and wonderful light and shadow, you know what to do. Okay, bye for now, folks, and see you again on a show very soon. Thank you, and happy creating.